Greetings, dear viewers, and welcome to the pilot episode of what I hope will be an enjoyable documentary series. At the time of making this video, I am a 24-year-old adventurer and expatriate. I completed my university studies in 2017, graduating with a degree in math. Shortly thereafter, I took a leap of faith by making a move to China. It was an eye-opening experience that broadened my perspective of the world and drastically changed my preconceived notions of East Asia, based only from what I had seen on TV. Numerous factors caught my attention, including the remarkably difficult local language, a strict education system, authentic food, and various cultural traditions. Everything was completely different from my comfort zone back in the West. While my time spent there was enjoyable to a certain extent, I also had mixed feelings. I realized that many of the foreign friendships I made were with people who were trying to escape hardships back from their home countries. I was bogged down by hearing their sad stories and the many issues they struggle with. While I empathize with them and feel grateful to not yet be plagued with similar misfortune myself, I figured that life is just too short to live with regret. There isn't much inspiration from sitting behind a computer screen for hours each day and putting up with bureaucracy with superiors I don't like talking with. Therefore, I decided at the end of the contract not to renew it, but to run away free and cycle across the Eastern Hemisphere. As a quick note, I would like to give my sincerest apologies to my patient friends who have been eagerly awaiting till now. I initially made a promise to release this first episode on April 5th, but due to some lame excuses and unnecessary delays, it has been pushed back. We have all the time in the world since most of us are on lockdown quarantine, being forced to stay at home. However, my lack of skills and motivation to work on this project, as well as needless seduction into wasting time by stalking the Instagram accounts of highly successful people who constantly remind me how miserable I really am, has distracted me from hitting my deadlines.
So without further ado, let's dive straight into the action, starting from Xinjiang. Some of you may have heard of this place as a bustling city that has experienced a true economic miracle like nowhere else on Earth. Just 3 decades ago, it was nothing more than a fishing village with 60,000 people, yet today it has evolved into an international metropolis with some 18+ million. It also has a gorgeous skyline featuring buildings such as the Ping An Finance Center, KK100, China Resources Headquarters, and the Shunhing Square. The city has a natural charisma for attracting locals and foreigners alike to come and seek new opportunities. It is the global headquarters of all electronic manufacturing activity based in its Huaqiang North market. A true technological paradise. Now, what you probably haven't heard of is that it also has a rough hurricane season in the month of September, as well as a horrendous sewage system on the rainy days, apparent in the suburb districts that are neglected, particularly the Shajing area where I happen to work. But other than that, I have to say that it was a real privilege and honor to experience life in this unique Pearl River Delta environment. I'd like to give a special shout out to Huang and Johnson for being the most kind and hospitable Chinese friends, Alec from my hometown, Cora from Alabama, Beth for her never-ending mouthful of complaints, my adorable little students that I had tremendous pleasure in getting to teach, aside from this little rascal, my lovely co-workers who almost every day showed up late to the office and encouraged me to do likewise, except for Simon. And finally, F45, team training life-changing, who helped whip me into shape in preparation for this journey. I highly recommend this to anyone aspiring to make positive changes in their well-being. Enjoy a 7-day free trial at a studio near you. So with that all said, the traveling begins as we jump on the train to Kunming. Yes, you heard that right. China has a state-of-the-art network of high-speed trains, that of which very few other countries in the world have managed to rival. This allows people to travel extremely long distances in a relatively short period of time. My trip, for example, took only 8 hours, until I reached the lovely capital of Yunnan province, featuring the Shilin Stone Forest, the old town of Lijiang sitting in the heart of the Sichuan mountain range, and of course, Shangri-La, a beautiful little city named after the international hotel chain franchise.
Now, sadly, I don't have time to see any of that because I've got an early morning flight to catch the next day to Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang province. In the meantime, the one and only evening that I get to enjoy in this city will have to be cherished by eating some Kentucky Fried Chicken and looking for this ridiculous hostel that seems nearly impossible to find.
So after looking around this convention exhibition center for about an hour, going around the entire perimeter, I barely managed to locate the hostel, which is supposedly up there on the 5th floor of some building complex. There's no signs indicating how to get there or where it was in the first place, and it's very subtle. You only have these 3 Chinese characters, ke la de,
Clear as day. How could I miss this?
which means glad in English. The English name is Glad International Youth Hostel, but the characters for International Youth Hostel are not there. So I was wandering around like an idiot, trying to find where the this place was. I tried asking locals and nobody wanted to cooperate, so I was undoubtedly quite frustrated and angry and exhausted. Not to mention I had to carry 2 very heavy bags. But nonetheless, we managed to find it. Alright, so let me show you a little bit about the hostel's facilities. I have to walk up about 4 flights of stairs with no elevator, which makes it very inconvenient for people who are handicapped. But luckily, I'm in reasonably good shape. This is similar to what I saw on one of the pictures. It has an okay view of surrounding landscape. This is the washroom. You have a place where I can clean my clothes, can wash my hands, and ooh la la, scrumptious. A typical Chinese toilet and a shower right next to it. So I was expecting an American toilet, considering this is an international hostel, and a shower a bit separated, but it's together, so there's no way I'm going to shower in this, because if anything, I'm going to become even more dirty than I was before, which is against the purpose of taking a shower in the first place. It's a wet day, on and off rain, which also makes my mood a little worse, but I try and look at the bright sides. So this is a lower level of the hostel. As you can see, it's very disorganized. There's rubbish everywhere. These are supposedly some other rooms, and people are supposed to be here. The window's open, so anyone can just crawl in and take stuff. Yeah, same thing here. And this whole complex is on top of a bunch of restaurants.
Alright, well that's enough criticism for now. I want to make it very clear that my channel is not about reviewing accommodations. However, it's definitely in the manager's best interest to implement some reforms, because that place was just awful, given how much I paid to stay there for. Going on to Changshui Airport, I'm now on a plane, China Eastern Air, with a flight to the capital of Xinjiang province, about 3,500 kilometers northwest, and from there onward it's all on the ground. Some interesting facts about this place, besides the well-known mass surveillance apparatus with cameras installed everywhere and police checkpoints in most neighborhoods, is that it is also the most inland city in the world, meaning that compared to every other establishment on Earth, Urumqi is the most far away from any nearby ocean. You can do the math yourself to verify this claim, and because of its geographic isolation from any big body of water, it is very dry all year round, and the summer days particularly can easily rise above 40 degrees Celsius. It is home to a predominantly Uyghur Muslim minority population, contrary to the rest of the country, which is mainly inhabited by the Han majority, consisting of over 1 billion people. You can see how the writing on some of these signs, written in the Uyghur language, is very different from the traditional Chinese characters. This place serves as the gateway to Central Asia because it has border crossings with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Mongolia. Therefore, Xinjiang is home to some of the most diverse ethnic groups in the world, where you have a clash of cultures from all the places mentioned.
So, yeah, my first experience being here in Xinjiang is more than a little bit of a shock, to say the least. The security in the subway was outrageous. As I said, they would not let me go through without showing any ID. They checked my phone, they checked my electronics, including my power banks, my headphones, and they asked me all kinds of questions which threw me way off guard. Stuff that I would just never see in the city of Shenzhen. But to make matters worse though, once I finally did get to the hotel that I had pre-booked online through the C-Trip website, the receptionist told me that they do not allow foreigners to stay, and I complained. I asked them for my money back, but after some back and forth talking, and with the help of a translator that I called, they told me that within 3 to 5 business days I'll see a refund from C-Trip, and meanwhile I have to look for an international hostel. So yeah, this is definitely not a very good first impression, and I knew that I would experience difficulties coming to this part of China. Sitting in a restaurant, getting some typical Xinjiang food, and a nice full belly always make me feel better, so I can make the next video just as good.
If there's any one redeeming quality about the Xinjiang province, it would have to be the world-class food that they have to offer, because I have never tasted anything better in my traveling experience. So I settled down in Urumqi for about 3 days just to catch my breath. And I made rather good use of this break time, since it allowed me to leisurely explore the breathtaking touristic sites it has to offer, including the Red Mountain, Grand Bazaar, and Tian Shan Expedition, where I met 2 lovely Japanese ladies who provided me some heartwarming company in a rather hostile environment towards foreigners, since the 3 of us were required to show our passports at the kiosk in order to purchase tickets and enter the Tian Shan scenic route, as well as for re-entering the city on the way back. But despite us being alienated sitting at the back of the bus, we enjoyed our rather tedious hike in isolation from the rest of the crowd. Look at that. Both a beauty and a beast. We concluded our adventure by walking on a bridge past an epic waterfall. Me and the Japanese girls wrapped up our adventure by returning to the mountain's main entrance. Thereafter, we ate dinner at a designated cafeteria, joining up with the other Chinese tourists. While they were certainly uninterested in attempting to communicate with us, their table manners made a very strong impression. And just like that, this episode comes to an end. It's kind of funny how you haven't even seen me on my bicycle yet, but I can assure you those details will come in the following episode. If you enjoy the content that I am producing on this channel, then by all means like this video and subscribe so that you will get instant notifications on updates. Furthermore, if you want to take your support to the next level, then I'm always grateful to accept any kind of financial aid to help fundraise for some of the less fortunate people. I think it's vitally important to make good use of the short time that we have to live by contributing an effort to make the world a better place.